This is a one-speaker meeting. Please welcome our speaker tonight, Marilyn.
I need a phone book or something to stand on back here. Oh, you have one. That's great. Oh dear, I don't think so. He's trying to. Oh, this is much better. I feel like a big person now. Is the microphone working now? Can you hear? All right. Listen, don't make me nervous. What? No, I don't have a soft voice. I'm very loud. Anyway, my name is Marilyn, and I'm an alcoholic. And actually, I have a thing on it says 27, but I've actually been sober 28 years. I'm just having a little temporary cash flow problem now, so I can't afford the other diamonds. So anyway, I'm really happy to be here tonight, and I have to thank Michelle for asking me to speak. Now, I speak until 10 minutes to 9, right? No souls are saved after 10 minutes to 9. Okay, I came to meetings in this facility when I first got sober, and Howard P. started the 6:45 a.m. meetings, and we had a little group of people right there, and I'm happy to say that most of those people I still see every once in a while, and they're still sober. I went to those meetings for years, and now how in the hell I ever got up that early? It's because I didn't sleep. Now, where is that little Sherry? Because she's only the second person I know who cried when they read the traditions. The other one was me. And I said, oh, Jesus Christ. And I could not get through the traditions. And this is her first day or first time, and I think, Sherry, that wherever you are, you did a great job. So, good for you. And Jack Neeson, I don't know if you know him, he's a guy, he has lots and lots of years, and he said, Marilyn's the only one I know who cried during the traditions, and now I have to say there's one more. She's taken away my aura. Anyway, I got sober when I was very young. I was still in school when I got sober. So you young people, I see some fairly young people in here, just better give it up, because there's nothing out there. It took me about 4 years to get the program. I was always raising my hand because I had no integrity when I was drinking and using, and I thought, well, at least I'll raise my hand because I'm going to try to be honest, or I am going to be honest. And right there, I was sitting, and Howard Pullins, he uses his name, was sitting right beside me, and I'd been raising my hand for a really long time. And my sponsor, who was Etta Jager, she passed away. She was just the best. She couldn't stand it anymore, so she turned me over to Howard Pullins, and they'd say, what are we going to do with her? I don't know, And they gave me that alcoholic stare, like, Anyway, I raised my hand. I had, almost a month, and something happened. I don't know. I was a victim of circumstances, and the truth is, people say, what do you have an urge? What is it? I said, I didn't get an urge. You think I'm going to wait around for an urge? I wanted a drink. I might not get an urge. So I raised my hand again, and he reached around the back, right where Michelle is sitting, and he punched me so hard in my shoulder blades that I almost cried. And he said, cut that shit out. just like that. And I did. I did. I knew that he was at the end of his rope and I was going to lose his friendship. I was going to lose everything. And I really cared. I really wanted to be a part of the group. But I don't know. I just kept getting these urges. Anyway, so I've been sober for I've been sober 28 and a half years. My birthday is August the 23rd. I forgot. Anyway, how I got sober is I drank for a really long time. I started drinking when I came from a family that drank, and I drank whatever they were drinking, and if they'd have parties, I'd wait. This is when I'm real little. I'd wait till everyone left, and then I'd go around and drink all the bottle, whatever was left. And I must have gotten a buzz. I don't remember. The only thing I remember is, people giving me sips and stuff. And my dad owned a restaurant, and I'd go in there after school, and I'd get a Coke at the thing, like that, from the bartender, and I'd say, put a little rum in that. And he'd say, get out of here, you're only 10 years old, get out of here. So I'd wait till he turned his back, and then I'd go into my Coke, much as I could. Then I'd go off and drink it. So I just, I don't know what made me do that. It must have made me feel good, because when I got sober, I found a little red diary. I've always written things like, lists of things. It was easy for me to do the steps because they were numbered. I'd say in my little diary, number 1, I'm going to get straight A's in school. Number 2, I'm going to stop beating up on my brother. Number 3, I'm going to practice my handwriting. Number 4, I'm going to help my mother with the dishes. And down, like around number 9, it said, I'm going to stop drinking so much. And I was 13 years old when I got that diary, because it was a little red diary, and I remember when I got it. So if I was worried about drinking when I was 13 years old, I was already in deep trouble. And there are a lot of kids out there who are in the same position that I was. I happen to believe that it is a physiological condition. From the minute you taste alcohol, I don't think you have any defense. Well, I didn't have any defense until I joined AA and learned a different way of life. I think that somehow we're just constitutionally different from other people. We're always going to be that way. It's like when Howard used to talk about the pickle and the cucumber, and once you turn into a pickle after you're a cucumber, it's over. You're never going to go back to being a cucumber again, so you have to give it up. That's it. Anyway, so I drank pretty much like a slob, and all through high school, and I loved school. I always liked school, and I got good grades in school. It just so happens that at night I'd go out and get drunk and get up, go to work. I could do all kinds of things when I go to school the next morning. But I got really good grades in school. And people were always astounded when I get these awards for, like, excellent student and this and that. And people would say, her? Yeah, I did. And I went away to school and drank. And then I met all these people that used drugs. And I thought, Jesus, this is incredible. And I tried to tell them how to use drugs because I'd been doing it for years, like pills and all that. When I went to school, that was when people were taking all these pills, and I'd say, oh, God, don't take that many because those are really bad for you. You could take 3 or 4, and they would, like, take handfuls of pills, and I think a lot of people died during that time. Anyway, no, seriously. I had I forgot, I have to backtrack. My sister, oddly enough, worked in the doctor's office. She's older than I am, and she was a nurse. And so she got me a job there because I needed money and I was smart. And so I would, like, organize the files and do something, this and that, and help around the doctor's office. There were 3 doctors. And they made me, in those days, people used to come in and the detail men would give drugs to the doctors to use, little samples. And I became the drug person at the doctor's office. So all the drugs went through me. It was like, oh, Jesus, I've died and gone to heaven. And so I would like put them in where they belonged, and I took everything. I took high blood pressure medicine. I took this medicine. I took that medicine. I take one and see, that's so good. But they were giving away amphetamines in those days. So I was like a zombie. You know, I just take all this stuff. I would do algebra. I was so fast. No wonder I got such good grades. I was always, I was very fast. So I needed a drink. Anyway, it wasn't funny, really. It's a wonder I'm still alive and I have half a brain, you know. I'm getting to the age where I'm forgetting things, and I think it must have been those damn amphetamines. That was it. All those years ago, I just killed off some cells, and I would have a few more left, but they were gone by the time I was like 20. By amphetamine 20s, they were black pills. Oh, Jesus, I loved them. Anyway, so I don't do any of that stuff now, so at the time it was okay, but now it's just like a no. Anyway, so let's see, where am I? All right, I'm still in school. All right. I ran afoul of the law. I got arrested. Oh my God, I got arrested for the stupidest thing. I got arrested for sleeping on the freeway because in the middle of all these drugs, and I'm working so hard as a student and I'm getting these good grades, and I just got tired and I thought, shit. So I pulled over to the side of the freeway and took a little nap. Well, when I went to court, the attorney said, well, you know, she really wasn't moving. It can't be a moving violation because she was sleeping. Anyway, they started getting me because I was getting out of hand, and I got, like, sleeping in the car. Oh, one time was the worst thing in the world. I wanted to go somewhere whenever I got drunk or had some drugs. I had to do something. I wasn't one of these people that was shy and retiring. I was just out there. So I decided to go to Hawaii. So I got over to LAX with a stolen Diners Club card. I don't know where I got it. Some guy took it out of his wallet. Seemed perfectly natural to me, and I'm in the line, and I'm saying I want a ticket to Hawaii, and they said, you're not Gregory so-and-so, and this, and I said, just give me the ticket. They were a little lax then, and so then the cops came and they said, come on, we're going to call you a cab, and we're going to do this, and we're going to send you home. And I said, how dare you question me? And I was going on, and the cop said, lady, this is going to be the most expensive cab ride you ever had if you don't shut up. Well, I couldn't shut up, so there I went smack. And here I was all dressed to go to Hawaii, and they put me in Lennox. From the people from the airport get put in Lennox. I mean, that was like, oh, Jesus Christ. They put me in the drunk tank with all kinds of people. I mean, women. They were women. Thank God they were women, but they were all drunk, and they were like hookers in there, and all and all kinds of people. And I kept saying, "These people are attacking me. These people are trying to kill me. I want out of here!" And I was screaming. I was not a nice drunk. I was just really shrewy. And this lady said, honey, you might as well sit down and shut up because you ain't going nowhere. And I did. Okay. And so I sat there, and the next morning they just threw me out on the street in Lennox. They just said, okay. I don't know. They just gave me all these papers and stuff, none of which I had any intentions of going to court, and so I just took off. And that's the way it was, you know, and I was in the Van Nuys, and I was in the Van Nuys Women's Prison, and this place and that place. I mean, I didn't start out to behave in this way, you know. It's not was my intention. And I must say, the Venice jail at that time was where the Beyond Baroque meeting is, and they were so nice. They used to say, "Come on in here, Marilyn. You're no stranger to us." And they would like put me in a cell, but they would leave the door open. And then when I sobered up, I'd go home. I really liked those policemen. They were very, very nice. I only lived over there on Strong's Drive, so I'd stumble on home. So it started catching up with me, and so I was getting fingerprinted at Sybil Brand the same time I was getting fingerprinted to get a teaching credential for the state of California, because I'd gone through school, I'd finished school. It was just like, I was going to lose everything. I mean, it was really bad. However, I promised never to drink again, ever, ever, ever. I was never going to drink, maybe a few drugs now and then. But never, ever drink again. And so I stayed sober for a pretty long time. I stayed sober as a periodic. And I had to go to court for a whole year because I got this guy named Lappin, who was this Beverly Hills attorney, and he said, this is a meatball case. I represent all these felons and everything. We'll get you off. So he kept, because I had so many of these unfortunate bookings and so forth, that he said, we'll get you off, this is a meatball offense. So we went to court for a year, and they investigated me, but they didn't have a lot of computers in those days. I mean, today, you've had it, boom, they got you. With 5 minutes, you can't get away with anything. But then they were using the snail mail, and they get this and that, and they would say, Marilyn, you have 26 outstanding warrants, and like, why? Were you a victim of circumstances? Yes, I was. Let me tell you about that. And I would go on and on and on. And finally I got to this judge who was this hanging judge in Van Nuys. And he said, you are a disgusting woman. You have had every opportunity, and I have this paper. And he had me dead to rights. This had gone on for a whole year. And he said, and he went on and on and on, and I'm standing there, and he said, I'm going to tell you what. Because you're doing this, and because you're doing this, and because you're doing this, I think I got probation or something, and I had to promise never to drink again, and I didn't say anything about the drugs. And so then I got everything dismissed. I was so lucky in those days because I was blonde, and I'd go in there and I'd look contrite, and, you know, but this guy wasn't having it, and he said, if I ever see you in this court again, you are doing time. You are going to do time. You are going to do all your time for all these infractions. Whew. So I thought, okay, I'm never, ever, ever drinking again as long as I ever live. And I went out to the car with my attorney. His car was here, my car was there, and I said, okay, I'm never drinking again. And I said, well, he said goodbye. We shook hands, and then I said, well, I won't be calling you again. You're not going to see me anymore. And he started to go to his car, and he put his key, and he said, bet me, under his breath, just like that. And I heard him, bet me. And I thought, that bastard. What encouragement is this? I'm not paying him now. I wasn't going to pay him anyway, but now I'm definitely not paying him. Anyway, so I went home, and I was never, ever, ever going to have another drink, ever. As long as I live, it's a new Marilyn. I might smoke a joint now and then at home, but I'm not going to do this. And the pills, I'm through with the pills, everything. And you know, I went to a wedding reception within a week or two. I mean, you know, you forget this stuff. And so somebody gave me a glass of champagne at the wedding reception, and it was just in this glass, and I was just high, and looked nice, and I had my pretty dress on, and I thought, oh, just one. Just one. I'm just going to have one to have a little toast. So I glommed that down. And then I glommed another one. And then I glommed another one. And then at the end of the evening, I was up on the stage dancing. And my friend was going, oh, Jesus, you're ruining my reception. You're ruining my reception. This is the way I am. And I had this big magnum of champagne. This is the way I am, and I'm this way all the time. How do you like me? Glug, 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 glug. I was in a blackout. I don't remember anything. I just know that I don't even know what my sobriety date was, because it was August 23rd when I finally woke up. I don't know what my last drink was. I don't know any of that stuff. And I said, I woke up, I was over in Santa Monica, and my car was parked up in the grass where, it was safe. And wrapped around the tree, and I was face down in my gown, all disheveled, my false eyelashes, and I was face down on the floor. And I woke up, I didn't know if it was like 4 in the afternoon or 4 in the morning. I didn't know. I just thought, oh, Jesus Christ. I couldn't even believe it. But somehow I'd made it home. And I swear that I heard this little voice that said, you're an alcoholic. You're an alcoholic. Now, people had been telling me this for years, and I heard, that small, still voice. I know to this day, I don't know whether I was hallucinating or what, but I went, Jesus Christ, what am I going to do? I was throwing myself against the wall, and oh, God. And so it just so happens that Clancy Emerslin's son-in-law-to-be of the yard lived in my apartment building. And he'd been giving me these tapes, and I was going to listen to them, and I had all these tapes to listen to, and these books to read, and all this stuff, and I was the new Marilyn, and so I went down on his door, and it was 4, I didn't know what time it was, but I'm banging on his door. Tom, you have to help me, you have to help me, you have to help me. His name was Tom Nutman, he's still sober. Anyway, I'm banging on his door. Tom, you have to help me, I'm an alcoholic, you don't realize I'm an alcoholic, I'm crying. And he's saying, Marilyn, everybody knows that. What is this? It's 4 in the morning. I said, I have to go to a meeting with you. You have my tapes, I have my book, I have my things, I'm ready, I'm going. He said, there's no meetings at 4 in the morning. Oh, but I was ready to go. So he said, go home and clean yourself up and come back. So I did the best I could because I was just distraught. I really was. I was crying. I mean, it was horrible. So he took me to Clancy's yard. My first meeting was Clancy's yard, and I walked in there. I think I had a hat on, dark glasses, false eyelashes hanging, tears streaming. And I walk in there, and they said, here, are you new? I don't know how they knew that. So they gave me a shovel, and they gave me a broom, and they said, clean up this goat shit. And I thought, oh, Jesus, it's come to this. So I'm walking around cleaning up all this dog shit and goat shit and all of this stuff. Oh, I can't. You guys, you have these newcomers and you're sweet to them and you say, sit down here. Nobody said that to me in the Pacific group. They were so horrible. And Ginny G, who passed away, was the first one. And she came right up to me and she said, oh, Christ, you know, if you know Ginny Gates. Anyway, she became a really good friend of mine, and she just passed away. She's my neighbor. She was my neighbor down there in Santa Monica. Cecilia Townsend is still my close friend. All those people in the Pacific group. I didn't know that there were meetings where you sat and listened so nice, and, you know, people were nice to you, and they brought you coffees and stuff. Nobody did that for me. They'd say, shut up. You are a puke. And Clancy was worse than that judge, but I stayed sober. And I wanted to come back, and I'll tell you this one thing. There was a yard, and there were like thousands of people in there. But men and women, and they were like doing stuff, and some people were shoveling up shit, and some people were making hamburgers, and I thought, oh my God, it's a one of those cults. I'm in a cult. But there's one thing that I remember, and that was their eyes. Their eyes were real bright, and it was like they were schmooze. Remember the Dick Tracy schmooze where they all had those bright eyes? And I was a schmoo. For some reason, I knew I was in this land of schmoos, and I belonged there. I felt safe. I did. I felt safe. And I always feel safe at a meeting. Nothing ever worked for me. Not swearing off, not going to, I had to go to the drug, alcohol, narcotics awareness program where they showed slides and people hanging out of cars with their tongues hanging out, and horrible people smashed against bulletin, those outdoor billboards and all that stuff, and I'd think, God, I don't do that. Anyway, I never went to that stuff, but I was nice, and I sat there, and I, got all dressed up and said, Jess, I'm never drinking again, but I just went out. I met some guy up in Malibu at the Drug, Alcoholic, and Awareness Program, this is way before I came to AA, that got arrested for burning pot in a pot-belly stove. I mean, he was my best friend in this program. I glommed onto him right away. The cops came to arrest him, and they just had all this pot, and they put it in the pot-belly stove, and it was all going up in flames. And anyway, what a life I had before I stopped drinking, I'll never know. Anyway, I've got to get sober because I only have a few minutes, and I've had just a fabulous sobriety. I stayed in the Pacific group, but I couldn't stay sober, and so they look askance at you. So I joined another group. Anyway, and then Howard, I got involved with Howard and all that, and that happened, and then he punched me over there. And he did it. He says, I didn't do that. I said, you did it. You did it. You punched me right here on my shoulder blades. And so little by little, I always wanted to go to meetings. That's why I raised my hand, even though I would, I kept the same friends. I had to get rid of all my friends eventually because they drank. And if I'd be out with them, it was like white knuckle sobriety. So I gave them all, I got rid of all my boyfriends, all my friends, everybody. And nobody is your friend who gives you drugs and drinks with you and when you're trying to stay sober. So girls, give it up. That's it. Get rid of those. Find some nice sober guys. But no 13 steppers. No. Anyway, God. Anyway, in the beginning, I went to meetings and I just had a really hard time. I was like poor little Sherry here. I was crying all the time. Finally, when I got sober, I don't know, it was just all those years. And Clancy said already that you got to get a job and you got to go there every day. So I went back to school and I became, oddly enough, a psychologist. Anyway, and I got a job. And all these people would tell me their stories, and I'd say, oh, Jesus, that's the saddest story I ever heard. Here's some money. Take your girlfriend. I work with children, teenagers. Here, take your girlfriend out to a movie tonight. Don't cry. Don't tell me those stories. Anyway, so they got better. They loved me. So line up to come to my office. They love me. Anyway, I managed to have that job for a really long time, and I make light of it now, but I was really good. I was a good psychologist, very child-centered, and when people used to talk to me about the steps, I'd say, I don't believe in anything or anybody, so don't even give me this humble jumble, because I'm going to stop drinking, and I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to do that, but I'm not praying. Maybe the Lord's Prayer, because everybody else is doing it, but I'm not doing this, and I don't believe in anything or anybody, so don't tell me, because I've seen the worst of people, and that's the way it is. And so my sponsor, who was this really sweet lady, she said, Marilyn, why don't you just make a list of all the things that you believe in? Why don't you do that? And so I got a little dictionary and I got a little piece of paper and I started writing all the things that I believed in when I didn't have anything to do at work because everybody was crying. And so I'd be sitting there writing my list. Shh, be quiet, don't cry, I'll give you some money. Anyway, I've got to make this list. So I looked in the dictionary. I started with A and aardvark and I went all the way through, and I found that there were so many things that I believed in. There were just lots and lots of things that I believed in. And then, you have to be a total moron if you don't see the beauty in this program after a while. And so I started going to the 6:45 a.m. meeting, and then I would go, I don't know. I would say, Howard, the police are after me. They're doing this. They're catching up with my warrants. They're doing it. He'd say, Marilyn, just take one day and bang that into another day. Just have one good day and bang it into another. And don't worry about all that stuff. And that's what I did for 28 years. I just banged one day into another one. And so I tried to do the best I could. And you know what? I found lots of things that I believed in. I remember I wish I'd have thought about it myself, because it was the highest form of spirituality was care and commitment for the human condition. And I'll never forget that. I heard that from the podium, or I read it somewhere, and I thought, that's it. That's it. I believe in that. That's a beautiful thing. I care about you. People cared about me. Believe me, they put up with a lot of my nonsense. And I thought, that's something. And so little by little, I was like the educational variety. And then that thing about that voice that said, you're an alcoholic. I really do think that someone was watching out after me. After a while, I came to believe. And so I don't have that much time. I wish I could tell you. Oh, there's so many things. Oh. This is a spiritual program, and if you say that you don't believe in anything or anybody, just make that list the way I did, and start. Don't look for ways to disqualify yourself. Look for ways to include yourself, and I think that that's what I got out of it. I mean, my best friends are in AA. I wish I could tell you all the wonderful experiences. This guy right here, Mickey, he got me involved in. I went to what was the name of that thing? Love and Service Seminar. I thought, well, I've been working all these years, and so, I mean, I've been a sponsor. I've done all this stuff with the secretaries, and I'm making cookies. I make great cookies, by the way. I made homemade cookies. Anyway, and so I heard Mickey talking about all this stuff at the Love and Service. This was 3 years ago, and I thought, that's it, I'm going to be the GSR. So I marched right down to the Life After 10 meeting, and I said, I'm going to be the GSR. Nobody wants to be the GSR, and I volunteered. But you know what? I really have loved it. I've learned so much, and there's one of those 12 concepts in aside from these things, and I've learned all that stuff. But now I can't find anyone to take over my job, and you're only supposed to do it for 2 years. Now I've been doing it for 3.5 years, and I'm saying, oh, look, you got to be the GSR. Look, I love it so much. And they said, if you love it so much, keep on doing it. And so, what's that? Guilt, service, and what is it?
Guilt, shame, and remorse.
Guilt, shame, and remorse. I have guilt, shame, and remorse. I can't give up that position. I think you're going to do it, Michelle. Anyway, I've brought more people into the GSR. I really love it. But not for my meeting. I can't. I don't know. God wants me to do it, so I just keep on trudging. So I've been the GSR representative, and I really do. There's just so many things. I do the next indicated thing. God put Mickey in my path to tell me about this, so I was a GSR. There's so many things that happen, you know. I have so many friends, and so many, people used to avoid me with enthusiasm. They really did. They'd say, I'm having a party. You can't come, Marilyn. You can't come. 5 minutes after the party is over. But I'll only smoke dope. I won't drink. You'll drink. you'll drink. So now people invite me to things. I'm presentable. I clean up nice. Anyway, it's time for me to shut up. But anyway, I only told you half the story. I didn't tell you the beautiful part of AA that I really love. I do. Well, I'm sober 28 years, so I must like something. And so this is the best thing I've ever done. I'll tell you that right now. So thanks very much.